This is the first lesson of Unit 3, and we're going to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines and how their slopes are related to each other. So first we'll talk about parallel lines, and when two lines are parallel, their slopes are the same. That means they have equal slopes. So let's check out these two parallel lines. And I can just pick 2 points on each line, and I can find the slope between those points. So I'll pick those 2 points there, and I'll pick these 2 points. And when we have the lines, it's nice and easy to just count the slope. The slope is the change in y, so up and down, divided by the change in x, like we talked about. So we're going up 1, 2, and we're going over 2. So the slope for this line is 2 divided by 2, which is 1. Over here we're going up 1, 2, over 2. So my slope again is 2 over 2, which is 1. So these two lines are parallel. Their slopes are the same. And then that's the relationship that parallel lines have when we're speaking about their slopes. And just as a quick side note, in order to say two lines are parallel, we can use this symbol. It's just two lines. That means parallel. So if we want to check if two lines are parallel, all we need to do is check their slopes and see if they're the same. If they're the same, then they're parallel. If they're not the same, then they're not parallel. So let's look at this line. I'll pick 2 points on the line. Let's pick this point and this point. And I'm going up first, then over. So up 1, to the right 1, 2, 3. So the slope of that line is 1 over 3. Do the same thing here. I'll take that point and that point. I'm going up 1, to the right 2. So the slope of this line is 1/2. So you can see that these slopes are not equal, so they are not parallel. So go ahead and pause here and let me know if you think these two lines are parallel or not. So I'm going to check the slopes of these two lines. So I'll pick this point and this point. I'm going down 3, so that's -3. I'm going to the right 2. So this line here has a slope of -3 over 2. We'll check this line. I'm going down 3. I'm going to the right 2. So this line also has a slope of -3 over 2. So they indeed, yes, they are parallel, because they have the same slope. In order to determine if two lines are perpendicular, and I'll tell you now, perpendicular has a upside down capital T. That means perpendicular. If two lines are perpendicular, then their slopes multiply together and equal -1. So just as a quick reminder, perpendicular lines intersect and make right angles. And I guess I should remind you too that parallel lines never intersect. They never intersect no matter how far we go. So if these two lines are perpendicular, then they make right angles. So 4 right angles are formed. Okay, so let's check their slopes. For this line, I'm going down 3, so -3. I'm going to the right 1, so its slope is -3 over 1. For this line, I'll pick this point and this point. I'm going up 1, to the right 3. So I'm going to multiply these two slopes together. 1 over 3 and negative 3 over 1. And if I multiply these together and I get negative 1, then the lines are perpendicular. So I multiply the tops to get negative 3. Multiply the denominators, the bottom, to get positive 3. And this simplifies to be negative 1. So these are two perpendicular lines. So again, the slopes of the perpendicular lines, if we multiply them together and get negative 1, then they're perpendicular. So let's check these two. This line has a slope of down 1 to the right 1, so negative 1 over 1. This one has a slope of up 1 to the right 1, so positive 1 over 1. So let's multiply those two together. When we do that, we end up with negative 1. So these two lines are perpendicular, which again means that we have right angles formed here. Go ahead and pause and give this one a shot. So let's check the slopes of both of these lines. This line I'm going down to the right 1. So it has a slope of negative 2 over 1. This one here, I'm going to go up 2 to the right 1, 2, 3. So we need to multiply these together to see if they multiply to be negative 1. I get negative 4 over 3, which definitely doesn't simplify to be negative 1. So these two lines are not perpendicular. They definitely intersect, but they're not intersecting to make right angles, so they're not perpendicular. So another way we can tell if two lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither of them is by looking at their equations. So we talked about linear equations in class. We want them in slope-intercept form, which means y is by itself, and then we can check the number in front of x and compare the slopes. So this one's already in slope-intercept form. Its slope is negative 4. We need to put this bottom one into slope-intercept form, and we can do that simply by dividing everything by 4. And those 4's cancel. This gives me 1/4 x minus 3. So we're looking at the numbers in front of x. They're definitely not parallel because they're not the same. The slopes are not the same. But we can multiply them together and see if they're perpendicular. You get negative 4 over positive 4, which is negative 1. So because their slopes multiply together to be negative 1, we can say that they are perpendicular. So go ahead and give this one a shot. Tell me if these lines are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, which means they intersect but are not parallel or perpendicular. So the second equation is in slope-intercept form because y is by itself. So the slope of this equation is 5. We need to figure out the slope of this equation by getting y alone, so we'll divide everything by 7. So the slope of this equation after we get it in slope-intercept form is also 5. Both slopes are the same, they're equal. That means those two lines are parallel to each other. So I have two problems here for you to do. Number one, tell me if those lines are parallel, and the second one, tell me if they're parallel, perpendicular, or neither.